I watched it again. Suddenly, my eyes locked onto a detail. Of course, the trick was right here. I looked up sharply. I know who the real culprit is. The words hung in the air, sharp and clear, cutting through the chaos of the crowd. For a split second, everyone fell silent. John's sneer froze on his face, the officer's hand paused midair, and even the wailing of the child died down to a whimper. All eyes turned to me, some skeptical, some curious, most still burning with the anger of someone who thought they'd caught a criminal red-handed. Enough with the lies. John finally snapped, yanking at my arm as if to drag me toward the police car. You think you can make up some story to get out of this? The footage is right there. Your car, your license plate, hitting my dad. The DNA matches. What more proof do you need? I pulled my arm free, ignoring the sting where his fingers had dug into my skin, and held up the phone with the dashcam footage still playing. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the rush of realization. How had I missed this earlier? How had everyone missed it? Look, I said, my voice steadier than I felt, tapping the screen to pause the video at the moment the car pulled out of the garage. Look at the rearview mirror. The officer leaned in, his brow furrowed. John crowded closer too, his expression a mix of irritation and unease. The crowd pressed in, craning their necks to see what I was pointing at. The dim light of the garage made it hard to see at first, but when I adjusted the brightness on the phone, the detail became impossible to miss. In the rearview mirror, reflected clearly, was a man's face. He was sitting in the driver's seat, his head turned slightly to the side, as if checking his surroundings before pulling out. It was not my face. The man had a sharp jawline, a scar above his left eyebrow, and short, dark hair, nothing like me. I was fair-skinned, with longer hair that I usually kept tied back, and no scars. Anyone who knew me could see the difference in an instant. That's not me, I said, pointing directly at the reflection. I don't have a scar above my eyebrow. I don't part my hair that way. And look at his hands, he's wearing a black leather bracelet on his right wrist. I've never owned one of those. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Someone leaned in and whispered to their neighbor. Another pulled out their phone to zoom in on the screen. The officer took the phone from me, studied the reflection carefully, and then glanced up at me, his expression softening slightly. Doubt was starting to creep in. John's face turned bright red, his hands balling into fists. That's a trick. It's a reflection, blurry. You could have edited it, or it's just a shadow. You think we're stupid enough to fall for that. It's not a trick, and it's not blurry. I shot back, my anger flaring again. If you don't believe me, let's zoom in. Let's get the police to enhance the footage. They can clearly see that's not me. And besides, how do you explain the fact that I can't drive? I have a medical certificate proving I'm red-green colorblind. I can't even tell a red light from a green one, so how could I have run a red light and hit your dad? The officer nodded slowly, still holding the phone. She has a point, sir. The reflection is clear enough to show distinct features that don't match Ms. Russell. And if her colorblindness certificate is legitimate, which it appears to be, she wouldn't be able to operate a vehicle legally, let alone run a red light. Legitimate? It's a fake, John shouted, but his voice lacked the conviction it had earlier. He glanced at his wife, who was standing quietly now, her head down, the child clinging to her legs. Something flickered in her eyes, guilt, maybe, or fear.
Full story BIO.